Okay, for part 2, you are now going to be creating a food web using the same organisms in the savanna ecosystem. Now, just to give you kind of an example of a food web, slide 9 is a picture of a food web within a forest ecosystem. So it's not the same ecosystem you are working with, but it is an example. What I'm going to do right now is actually show you how I went and built this exact food web, which is similar to what you will be doing for slide number 10. However, you'll be using the savanna organisms. So just real quick, for slide 10, here's where you will construct your food web. I'm going to do the exact same thing just with different organisms here in a sec, so you should be able to complete yours pretty easily. On the left-hand side is all the arrows you're going to be using. On the bottom is all the different organisms, and again, you may need to go back to slide 5. This gives you a list of all the names, and remember, you're going to need to Google what each organism eats that you're adding to your food web so that it is accurate. Okay? And then for your food web, you need to be using at least 10 of these organisms. If you use more, that is totally fine. Okay, so I'm going to do an example using the forest ecosystem. So again, this slide is pretty much identical to your slide, except it's using the organisms in the forest ecosystem. And what is already pictured here is your sun, and it has 3 arrows coming out just to get you started. Just a tip, I would always start when you're creating a food web or food chain in general, you want to start from the bottom and work your way to the top. So that means working with producers first and then working towards the top to your apex or tertiary predator or consumers. Okay? So just by looking down here at my pictures, I have a grass, which is definitely a producer. I have a hawk, a berry bush, grasshopper, frog, mouse, fox, butterfly, rabbit, another kind of floral bush, and some type of forest bird. Okay, so right off the bat, again, I'm starting from the bottom to the top. So I'm going to start with my producers. Okay, and I know that my 3 producers in this ecosystem are going to be my grass, my berry bush, and my other flower. Okay, and I have arrows coming out from my sun to my producers because the energy from the sun is going to the plants. Now again, I'm going to work my way up. So now I need organisms that eat these plants. Now, I may not know right off the bat, but I know just from my own background knowledge, I'm going to assume this butterfly, the rabbit, maybe even the grasshopper, and the mouse eat plants. Okay, but again, I'm going to do some Googling. So I'm going to go over here and just quickly type in, what do butterflies eat? Let's see. So they drink nectar from flowers. Okay, so that's great. I do have a flower in my food web here. So I'm going to add my butterfly above my flower. Okay, and now I need to add an arrow. So I'm going to click on one of the arrows, drag it. Now the problem with my arrow is they're all straight up and down. You'll notice here as it's highlighted, there's 2 blue dots. If you click on one of the blue dots, a plus sign should show up, just hovering over it. If you click, then you can kind of change the direction it's pointing, and you can change the size by kind of pulling it longer. I don't need to really make it longer, so I'm going to shrink it back down, but you can kind of change the direction it's going by swiveling it around on that dot. Okay, so I have an arrow going from my flower to my butterfly because the nectar from the flower is energy that's going into the butterfly. Okay, now I'm going to look at, what do mice eat? They like fruit, seeds, grains. They're omnivores, which means they eat both plants and meat. Okay. They also eat small insects. So we're gonna leave the mouse out for now because I just want to focus strictly on um, herbivores right now, and the mouse is an omnivore. So I'm gonna go back to my food web, and I'm just gonna put the mouse to the side because it's an omnivore. I'm gonna look up what do grasshoppers eat. They eat a lot of different plants. So they are herbivores. So I'm going to go back to my food web and I'm going to put it above the grass. Again, I need to add an arrow here. I'm going to kind of rotate it and that connects it into there. Now I'm going to look up what do rabbits eat. Okay, and they eat fresh fruits and vegetables. That's more geared towards a grasses. This is more geared toward if you had a pet rabbit. I'm gonna kind of narrow my search and just to clarify, make sure they are herbivores, which they are. They eat mostly grasses. So I'm gonna add again back into my I'm gonna add it above the berry bush. And we're gonna say that the rabbit eats both the grass, okay, and possibly even the berry bush. Okay, so now I have 2 arrows going towards the rabbit because they eat both of these things. Okay, now I'm going to take a guess and say that my frog, my mouse, which we already know is an omnivore, and my bird are omnivores, but let's just double check and make sure that the frog is an omnivore. What do frogs eat? Okay. It looks like frogs are actually carnivores, so they eat mostly just insects. Okay. What was my other one? My bird. Okay, so they eat grasses, plants, worms, insects. Okay, so I'm going to add my bird in next. Okay, and I'm actually going to kind of shuffle it out here, but also a little bit higher because it's the next level of consumers here. And I'm going to say it eats the grasses and grasshoppers because it eats both grasses and in small insects. So I'm going to say it eats both of those. Okay, now I need my mouse again, and let's just double check what do mice eat again. And they like to eat fruit, seeds, grain. They're omnivores, which means they probably eat smaller insects as well. So we're going to add our mouse in kind of above here. And again, I'm going to say it eats the berries. Okay, I'm also going to say it eats the grasshopper. It could also even eat the grasses, so I could add another third arrow in here for the mouse. Okay. My frog is a carnivore, and it probably only really eats the grasshoppers. So I'm going to add my frog in here and add an arrow going from the grasshopper to the frog. And then my last two is my fox and my hawk, and they're probably my apex predators. So I'm going to kind of put them higher up. And guys, you'll notice mine is starting to get it looks sloppy, doesn't look as neat as it does on the example slide. At the very end, once you kind of have it all structured out, you can rearrange it so it looks neater, which is what I did for that final slide that you guys have in your assignment. So now let's see, what do hawks eat? Hawks will eat just about anything. Small mammals such as mice, rats, rabbits, and squirrels, lizards, insects. Okay, so they eat a lot of different things. So I'm going to draw a lot of arrows. We could add one from the rabbit to the hawk. We could add one from the mouse to the hawk. Okay. We could add a lot more, but I'm just going to do 2 for organizational sake. And then my last one is, what do foxes eat? Rabbits, rodents, earthworms, small insects. Okay, so very similar to the hawk. So I'm going to add from the rabbit to the fox, and I'm going to add from the mouse to the fox. Okay, and then I would be finished. And like I said, mine looks kind of sloppy, and that's okay. A food web it's a web, it's a mess. As long as I can tell where your arrows are going to and from, then you're good. I should start to see some kind of levels developing. Again, mine is a little sloppy, but I should see producers on a level, primary consumers, start to see your secondary consumers, and then my top would be my tertiary consumers, which would be my apex predators as well, which would be my hawk and my fox. Okay, so all you're going to do for your assignment now is the same exact thing, except using the savanna ecosystem.